Hey guys, welcome back to Crafts Go Bloom. My name is Krista, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make this no-sew crochet mallard. The way this pattern is going to work is the pattern will go across the top of the screen like this, and I will break down each of the sections of the rounds and we'll work through those stitches together. If I'm moving too quickly for you, just feel free to pause the video, finish the round that you're working on, and then come back and meet me for the next round. If you would like a PDF printable, the pattern is also available linked below if you'd like to have a hard copy to follow along with and take with you. So let's take a look at the supplies we're going to need today. I'm going to be using Big Twist Posh in the color Bok Choy for my green for the top of the bird. And then I have Big Twist Posh in Brown Butter for the brown parts of the bird. For the different yellow parts, I have Big Twist Posh in Lemon Meringue. And for that white stripe around the middle, I have Big Twist Posh in Whipped Cream. The bird that I have here already completed as an example was made in Bernat blanket yarns. So you can get something a little bit bigger if you use blanket yarn. The pattern turns out great. I've also made similar bird patterns, and I have other bird patterns on my channel as tutorials in the Big Twist Posh yarn. And so it's going to turn out a little bit smaller, but it's still going to look the same. It's going to have the same shape. I've also seen people make these in Parfait Chunky, so that's also an option. And I have made them in a weight for acrylic yarn, and those turn out like a keychain size. Some other supplies that you're going to need are stuffing. I will insert a photo here. I have a giant 20-pound box of stuffing, but if you're a beginner, I suggest getting a smaller bag and starting with that. And I use polyfill that I buy from Joann here in the US, but any kind of stuffing will work. I have a sharp pair of scissors. This is a stitch marker. It works just like a safety pin, and we're going to put that in around the stitch that we're working on so that we know where to stop and start in the round. I have a tapestry needle, and mine is metal, but some of them are plastic. Mostly you just don't want a tiny sewing needle. For hand sewing, you want something that has a larger eye and it's dull on the end. Some of them are also bent at the end to kind of hook into the stitches more. Mine just happens to be straight. Up next, I have 12mm safety eyes, and I use 12mm in the Bernat blanket, and I use 12mm with the Big Twist Posh. And you're going to have the eye that sticks out the front. This will push through the back into the inside of the plushie, and then you'll push this washer onto it. Safety eyes are not intended for any child who's still putting toys in their mouth. They are a choking hazard. If you're going to be giving this to a child who is still putting things in their mouth, then I suggest doing yarn eyes. Most importantly, we're going to need a crochet hook. So I have two crochet hooks here that are both 4.5mm. That is because that's the hook size that I need for this skinnier yarn. The Big Twist Posh is smaller than Bernat Blanket. Really what you need is the hook size that's going to make it so that your stitches are very tight and we can't see any holes or any stuffing sticking out of them. You can see here as I'm like trying to pull on this, I don't have any stuffing coming out. If that's happening to you, then you probably just need to go down a hook size. You can try holding everything tighter also, but that might make your hands hurt more, so I suggest just going down a hook size. Now this green one is from an inexpensive set that I bought off of Amazon. Came in a bag with a bunch of stitch markers and needles and things, and it cost around $20 for the whole set of maybe 10 or more hooks in this ergonomic style. And then it came with the same amount of metal hooks. So I have used these for about 3 years, and I've been really happy with them. You don't necessarily need to jump in and buy the expensive tools to get started. I also am going to be using my clover hook today, which is more expensive. They do often get sold in a set. If you watch though, you can find some good sales on these. And I just prefer the ergonomic hooks that have this like rubber coating on them because that makes my hand hurt less. It's okay if you have a hook that's just metal as well. You can also put some of those like pencil grips on them if you just want like an inexpensive option with a metal hook. So let's get started. For the first part of this pattern, we're going to be making the feet. So we need the yellow yarn first, and I'm going to start off with a slip stitch. And I do that by wrapping the yarn around my fingers, and then pushing it up through that circle and tightening that down and putting that on my hook. And then we're going to chain 5. And to chain, you're just going to yarn over and pull through that loop. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to skip that first chain from the hook, that V right there. We're not going to go into that. We're going to go into this second one, and we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops, and that's a slip stitch. We're going to do 1, 2 slip stitches. Then we're going to chain 2 again. 1, 2, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a slip stitch in that second chain from the hook, and then the second slip stitch is going to go back into that same space of the second slip stitch we did for that first talon. Then we're going to chain 2 one more time. And same thing again, you're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook and slip stitch once more in that base area there. And then you're going to do 2 more slip stitches up the last 2 chains, which is making the little leg. And then chain 1 to finish off, and we're going to put that down and cut a long tail. And we want to leave those tails on because that's what we're going to use to tie these onto the bird when we get to that part in the pattern. So I will make a second one of these a little more quickly. Make sure that you have 2 feet to put on your bird later. Once you have your 2 feet made, go ahead and just set them off to the side, and we will be dealing with those later on. And just set your yellow to the side as well. We will need that when we get down to the beak. And for right now, we're going to start with the green. This pattern is going to start with the magic ring, so I'll show you how I make a magic ring. I'm going to lay the yarn across my hand like this and grab it with my thumb. Go across the back of these 3 fingers and then make an X and pinch on the X. I'm going to go across the back of all 4 of my fingers. Grab my hook and go under the first loop, grab the second loop and turn. And then I'm going to grab the yarn that I'm holding with my pinky and pull that through the loop on the hook. And then once we straighten everything out, we've got our magic ring. I will show you that one more time. So we're going to lay the yarn across our hand, grab it with your thumb, wrap around 3 fingers and grab it again. Go all the way across the back of your hand and grab it with your pinky. Now grab your hook and go under the first loop and catch that second loop and give it a twist. Grab the yarn that you're holding with your pinky and pull it through the loop on the hook. And that's how I do a magic ring. Feel free to watch that a few times if it's the first time that you're doing it, but I promise it gets easier. I can do it without looking now. For round 1, we're going to start with 7 single crochets into the magic ring. And the way you do a single crochet is by inserting your hook, yarning over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's true of a single crochet whether you're doing it into a magic ring or anywhere else. So you're going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through both on the hook. So now I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you're going to want to hold on to the single crochets with one hand, grab that tail with the other hand, and pull on it. We're just pulling until we have tightly closed up that circle in the center. We don't want to have a hole in the top, so we're closing that up. But don't pull so tightly that you snap your yarn. That can happen with any brand of yarn. For round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch for a total of 14 stitches. And an increase just means that we're going to do 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So I've got 1, 2, and same thing. You're going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, pull out that stitch marker for 13 and 14. If you try to crochet around the stitch marker, sometimes it leaves like a little bit of a bump or makes your stitches a little bit loose. For round 3, we're going to increase and then single crochet 1, and we're going to repeat that pattern around 7 times for a total of 21 stitches. So we're going to start by doing an increase. That's our 2 single crochets into one space. And then we're going to move over to the next space and only do 1. So we've got a little repeating pattern going. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. For round 4, we're going to do 21 single crochets around for a total of 21 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. At the end of round 4, my project always starts to turn into a little bowl and it starts cupping. This is actually the inside of your project though, where the tail is. So you're going to flip that and we're crocheting around the outside of the project. For rounds 5 and 6, you're going to repeat the same thing we just did in round 4. You're going to single crochet 21 for a total of 21 stitches. So make sure that you go around and do that twice for rounds 5 and 6, and I'm going to speed up this process in the video. All right, I finished round 6. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds. For round 7, we're going to start with 10 single crochets in the green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and when you get to that 10th one, you're going to insert your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop, just like a regular single crochet. And then you want to grab your yellow yarn, and I'm going to leave about a 6-inch tail and yarn over and pull up the yellow so that we can make that beak. Now we've got a lot of tails and things going on here. So what I do is pull the green working yarn. That's going to come to the front. We're going to crochet over it. We're actually going to be crocheting with the yellow working yarn, and then the yellow tail, I want to hold that down and out of the way. So I've got that in my last 2 fingers out of my way, holding that down, crocheting over the green with this yellow. And in the front loops only of the next stitch, Let's show you those front loops. If you just insert your hook like you normally would, you can pull these apart and see that the yarn actually makes a V, and there are 2 loops on your hook right now. So what we're going to be doing is hooking under just that first one in the front loop only. We want to do a single crochet, a half double crochet, and then another single crochet. So we're going to do that 1 single crochet. You do a half double by yarning over, inserting your hook into the same loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then we're going to do 1 more single crochet, but we're going to switch back to the green at the end of this. So we move back to our green, and we just leave the 2 yellow tails down and out of our way while we finish a couple of rounds. So to finish round 7, we're going to single crochet 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if you're getting twisted up with that yellow yarn, just flip everything over, get that straightened back out, and that'll help you in this next round. For round 8, we're going to start by single crocheting 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now on the next stitch, we're just doing a single crochet, but we're going to be doing it in the back loops only under that beak that we left from the last round. So we've got that 1 in there. If you pull on that yellow tail, it kind of helps with the way that that yellow sticks out a little bit right there. Now you want to make sure that the working yellow yarn is not in the front. We want that in the back out of the way, and you're going over top of it and leaving it down. Then make sure you're going to the first green stitch on the other side of the beak, and we're going to single crochet 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to stop for a minute, pull out that working yarn, and we're going to deal with those yellow tails first. I like to cut these yellow tails till they're about the same length so we can tie some knots with them. And now we're done with the yellow yarn, so you can move that out of your way. And if you've moved all the tails like I was telling you to, you're going to have this green stitch in between the 2 yellow tails that you can tie these into a few tight knots over. And that's just going to keep us from having to weave anything in. And while we're taking a break, we're going to go ahead and place our eyes as well. I also like to place the eyes when it's still fairly easy to reach up inside the project instead of having to flip the whole thing inside out. So for our eyes, we're going to place them between rounds 6 and 7, about 4 stitches apart. So we'll count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we're going in between. And then we're going to go about 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches over. And it matters more that your beak is centered between your eyes than how many stitches are in between the eyes. And then I'm going to hold this with my thumb and push this inside out, being careful not to push the entire eye through the project. And then we're going to snap that safety, snap the back on the safety eye. And then we'll get the second one the same way. And that just snaps down over those ridges and makes that more permanent. All right, looking pretty good. Next, we're going to go back to our working yarn, but we're going to back up 1 stitch and switch colors to the white. So I'm going to take my stitch marker out, and I'm just going to undo that last 1 stitch there. insert my hook and pull up a loop, and then grab the white, leave about a 6-inch tail, and yarn over with that to do our color change. And then I want to make sure that I don't forget to put the stitch marker back in. I'm going to cut the green right now. I know that I like to crochet over the green yarn for about the length of the entire project, so I'm just going to wrap it around and cut that. And now that's cut where I know that the yarn's going to make it all the way around the bird, and we can get rid of one of these skeins. So I'm going to straighten out all these tails, and I'm going to crochet over both the white and the green because I don't want to have to weave anything in later on. So we'll get those pulled tight and pushed into the front. And for round 9, we're going to single crochet 21 all the way around for a total of 21 stitches. 2, 3, 4. I want to make sure that while I'm crocheting over these tails that I don't flip them around like this, or you're going to see those green and white stripes inside of there. If you look very closely, you can see the yarn tails that you're crocheting over, but they just sort of blend right in if you don't know what you're looking for. However, even to a novice crocheter, you will see a bright white stripe and a bright green stripe if you get them flipped. And it does get a little bit finicky around the beak, so just slow down and take my time with each stitch in this round. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I only have this little bit of the white left, so I'm going to drop that and let that go on the inside and finish out the round by just crocheting over the green. 18, 19, 20. Now on that 21st stitch, I am going to be switching to brown. So I'm going to drop the green, not crochet over that anymore. Take out my stitch marker. And I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and then let that be. Grab the brown. Same thing, I want to leave a long tail for that. And I'm going to yarn over with the brown. Now that was the last stitch of round 9. So I'm going to insert my stitch marker there. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the white that I did with the green, just to have less rolling around here. I'm going to pull it all the way around, make sure I have enough to get around the bird once. And then we can move our white out of the way too. Now for round 10, it's going to seem like we've got a lot going on here, but we're going to break it down into just little chunks here so that it all makes sense. So we're going to start by crocheting over these. And the way we start round 10 is with just one single crochet. And we're in the brown yarn now. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Starting in that second chain from the hook again, we're going to do 2 single crochets going back down the hook. I have 1, 2. Now we started this round with a single crochet, which should be very easy to find because it's the only brown one that you've done. Do another single crochet back into that same space. And then we're going to do 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you could just go ahead and drop these tails and stop crocheting over them if you would like. I'm going to continue to keep them in there for a little while longer. And up next, the next thing we're going to do in round 10 is make the wing. And we're going to do that by making 5 double crochets. They're all going to go in the same stitch and they're all going to go in the front loop only. But don't forget that I'm crocheting over these 2 tails, so you're going to see the 2 extra tails in there. but I'm making sure that I only go through that front loop only. To make a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we're going to yarn over, make sure you're inserting your hook in that same place, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops. So now we've got 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, these double crochets have a tendency to lay down across your project. So you want to make sure that you kind of stand them up, and the next thing we're going to do is 9 single crochets. Stand these up out of your way to find that next stitch and be certain that you're going into the next single crochet and not leaving a gap there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now I'm going to drop my brown yarn and stop crocheting over it because there just isn't very much left, but I'm going to keep crocheting over the white, and that's just personal choice on how long you keep crocheting over things. We're going to make the second wing the same way we made the first. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook in the front loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we've got 5 double crochets going into the front loop only of the next space. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Same thing again, you want to make sure that you're going into the next single crochet that's under that wing, and that it's not like hiding one and then you're moving over. So move it out of your way and go to the next space. I'm also going to remove my stitch marker right now, even though it's early on, because we're going to make the round end at the tip of the tail feathers. And to end this round, we're going to do 8 single crochets. The first 5 are just 5 normal ones here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm not crocheting over anything white anymore, so I'm going to put that tail down. And 5. Now the 6th one, if you pull this tail out, you get a little bit of a gap there. The 6th one's going to go over into that gap to fill that in. And then 7 and 8 are worked up the back of that chain that we started at the beginning of the round. That's 7 and 8. And you should have 36 stitches at the end of round 10, and that includes the double crochets in the wings. For round 11, we're going to start by single crocheting 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then similar to the beak, when we went underneath the beak, we're going to go underneath the wing and do 1 single crochet in the back loop only of the stitch that we left behind there. And then we're going to do 9 single crochets across the front. We want to make sure that we count the wing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're skipping over all 5 of those double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then same thing, we're going to go under that wing, grab in there and find that back loop only, and do 1 single crochet there. And then count those double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you're skipping over them and finding the next single crochet, and we're going to single crochet 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you should have a total of 27 stitches at the end of this round. Now for rounds 12 and 13, you're going to just single crochet 27 around for a total of 27 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, making sure you're really checking on all those stitches under the wings. You're just going into 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. Now for round 13, do the exact same thing, single crochet 27 around for a total of 27 stitches. I'm going to speed this up though, and I'll meet you here when I'm finished. This is how it's looking after the end of round 13, and you should have 27 stitches at the end still. For round 14, we're going to start by invisible decreasing 4 times. Now to do an invisible decrease, you're going to insert your hook into the front loops only of the next 2 stitches, yarn over and pull through both of those, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. So that was 1. We're going to go through the front loops only of the next 2 stitches, yarn over and pull through those 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. And what you're doing is taking 2 single crochets and turning them into 1 as we decrease the project and round out the bottom of it. So that's 3, 4. Now we're going to single crochet 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to invisible decrease 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to single crochet 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to end this round by doing 3 more invisible decreases. 1, 2, and the last one. And we're going to add that stitch marker back in and pull out our working yarn and grab the feet. We're going to go ahead and attach those now. I'm going to take all these tails and stuff them up inside of there. Then we're going to grab our feet, and the way I attach the feet is by pulling the tails through the bird and then tying them in the back. And I figure out how to get them centered by using my hook starting at the eye and going straight down. Go over, let's see. They usually have about 4 stitches in between them as well. So I'm going to go over a full stitch of the body. So one tail is going to go on one side and the other tail is going to get pulled through on the other side. What's going on? There we go. It's going to get pulled through like that, where there's a stitch in between that we can tie over. I'm not going to tie anything permanently just yet, though. I want to make sure that both feet look good together before we do anything that I have to cut out. And then you can count 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches over, and you can try that. Or you can go back down from the eye also. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. And then the other thing I like to do is stick my hook from the beak straight down and see is it also in the middle of the feet. Once you have your feet in the place that you're happy with, go ahead and tie these tails together, but you want to make sure that you're tying the 2 tails of the right foot onto each other, and then the 2 tails of the left foot onto each other. Don't tie the left and the right together, or you're going to pinch your project closed in the front. We'll get that second one done. And I like how this centers things nicely for me. It keeps them on the same row and everything like that, and nothing is crooked. And I didn't have to do any sewing. We're also going to stop right now and add our stuffing. We're only going to be stuffing it to about round 12 because we only have one more round left. And when we finish that round, we're still going to have a hole big enough to add some more stuffing inside of there. And where we stand right now, if you try to stuff the tail feathers, it's going to pop out and just get in your way. So save a little space there, and we'll get to that after the next round. I also like to add a little more stuffing than most, because I know that these are going to get played with and squished a ton. So I like to make them just a little more stuffed than you might think, so that as they get played with and they start to flatten out, they still look really cute. So let's go back to our working yarn. And for round 15, you're going to invisible decrease 8 times, and then single crochet 1 for a total of 9 stitches. And these invisible decreases are going to be the exact same way. You're going to go in the front loops only of the next 2 stitches, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. These last few take me a little bit longer. I slow down on these because my yarn can get caught in the stitch marker, in the feet, and I'm also really making sure that that stuffing is pushed down out of the way, because you don't want to crochet bits of stuffing into your stitches. And then as I near the end, I like to take my stitch marker out a few stitches early and just make sure I'm keeping track of what stitch I'm on, because my hook starts to get caught in it because I'm moving too closely to it. That's 8, and then we have 1 single crochet, and then I chain 1 to finish off, and I cut a tail about 12 inches long. Go ahead and pull that yarn through, and now's the time to add the rest of your stuffing. Now that we've closed that up more, your tail feather is going to be able to get filled out with stuffing. All right, I'm happy with that amount of stuffing. I'm going to thread my yarn onto my tapestry needle, hold those feet down out of the way, and also be pushing the stuffing out of the way here, and we're going to weave through the front loops only of that last round. And every time I'm going through, I'm actually cinching this down just a tiny bit. If you wait until the very end to try and cinch it down, sometimes you can snap your yarn. Or sometimes it just gets stuck and it just won't work either. So we want to get through all of those, and you can see it's starting to close up as we're going around. And then I like to go through one more just to really close it. And then I like to skirt my needle in here along the edge, trying not to go through the stuffing, and I come out under the wing over here. Make sure I don't have too many stuffing bits sticking out the side. And then I'm going to weave my tail through those single crochet loops that we've done. And this is just going to lock that yarn tail in there, and it's going to keep it in place if this ends up having to go through the wash. So remember, I'm going in the loops of the single crochets that we've done. I'm not just pulling through the outside of the project, and I think that's good. I just go around about half of the project there, and then I'm going to cut that off. Get those little yarn bits out of there. And that's it, guys. You did it. We just crocheted our very own no-sew crochet mallard together. And you can see the size difference that happens here in the Big Twist Posh or the Bernat blanket. And if you use Parfait Chunky, it comes out pretty similar to the Big Twist Posh. If you're interested in more tutorials like this, go ahead and check out my channel. I have dozens of other no-sew crochet tutorials just like this. And leave a comment down below and let me know how you liked this video. And I'd love to see you guys in the next one. Bye.